right, welcome back, everybody. It is the Awesemo.com Nhl Dfs strategy show. We've got 8 games to discuss for tonight. I'm Jake Hari. I'm joined by T McB, Terry McBride. How you doing, Terry? How's DFS been since about 8 days ago since we last talked?
It's been pretty good. It's been a lot of fun. Spending way too much time on NBA Top Shot and getting that mixed into the DFS thing. It's just soaking up way too much of my time. New role at the company, so I've got all that going on. Cat just snuck into the office here, so I'm sure he'll make a cameo in a second, diving onto my shoulder. But we're doing good, man. Getting through a busy Tuesday. How about you?
Yeah, a lot going on. Busy time for the sites. It feels like it's always busy since sports came back. So that's good. That's good. Staying busy. Things did not go as planned yesterday. I didn't watch so there were 4 late games. I don't know if you got a chance to play, but there was actually a pretty good late slate, and I was doing okay heading into those final 4 games, but that was over half the slate, and so just went to bed, woke up, and had nothing good happened apparently. So yeah, dusting that one off. And we're right back at it for tonight. One thing we did hit on yesterday, well, Josh and Cliffy hit on, was the Stetzel Batherson duo for Ottawa. Yeah. Ottawa 3. They were pretty heavy on those guys. And Jamar Tens said it helped for a killer lineup. So congrats to anyone who played Ottawa 3. Batherson, a couple goals. I think he got pretty good production out of that 2-man. So hopefully we've got more good picks like that. I don't know. Pretty tough to follow up an Ottawa 3 call on a 7-game slate, Terry.
Yeah, that's a solid call. I mean, we could just rip it off and go right back there. They're on the slate. I even made a note of it. I think Batherson's got goals in 6 straight, going for an Ottawa record 7th straight. I mean, we could go right back there and just ride that. I think they're hot.
Yeah, absolutely. Looks like we are going to have a pretty decent crowd in the chat. As always, if you guys want to drop us a like, that helps us. It helps us a little bit. It is nice to see, everybody liking the show, and more importantly, not disliking it, because some jokesters always pop in here and hit thumbs down. But more importantly, if you could subscribe to the channel, that would very much help us out and help you out as well. It'll let you guys know when we go live. Not just for NHL, but PGA. We've got MMA. We've got 3 hours of NBA coverage going on. And, if you're relatively new to NHL DFS, we're going to have a handful of shows for you once NBA All-Star break happens, which is going to be starting on the 5th, which is Friday, if I have my days correct. And that'll go through next Thursday. So we're going to have some really big NHL slates. Excited about that. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see myself, Terry, Josh, Cliffy, and Emac's going to be mixing in. I think we're going to have multiple shows. So Emac always likes to get a couple NHL shows under his belt, and he's good at relaying the basics. And he, don't let him fool you, because he's a pretty good NHL grinder in the low stakes stuff, the showdown. He's always sending me screenshots. Sneaky good NHL DFS player.
Yeah, I get those from him constantly. Just, oh, man, NHL saved my ass again. Yeah. And I was down 50% in NBA. But look.
Yeah. So, Emac will make an appearance, I'm sure, if he is around. Just finalizing the schedule for that. Slam the like button, boys. Don't smash it. All right. So we're slamming it today. We're not smashing it. Maybe we will smash it tomorrow. Congrats to anybody who had success last night. Always like to see winning screenshots. I saw a couple going around in Slack. So hopefully you guys can all keep that up. Maybe Terry and I can get it on the fun this evening. Let's get into it. We got 8 games to go. We'll be out in about 50 minutes, and then NBA guys will take you up to lock and through lock with the late slate show as well. Sabres and Rangers. We've got a 2.5 implied total for the Sabres, 3.1 for the Rangers. Probably going to be Jonas Johansson for the Sabres. We don't have confirmation just yet on the goalies. Goalies don't matter that much. Just make sure you get the right one in. And then Shesterkin for the Rangers. Terry's Rangers here. Pretty good total. Getting some ownership on the top line. It's not out of hand, I don't think. Looking over at the top stack tool, let's see. Rangers won a little bit over owned, but top 10 or so chance of being a top 2 stack. And I don't know. I mean, the numbers are telling me that I should be playing some Rangers, but I don't actually love the spot that much. I know Buffalo stinks, but what are you thinking about these Rangers top 2 lines? Do you have a favorite here?
Yeah, I mean, if I was to go to it, I would probably lean into just the talent of that top line. You've got Zibanejad and Buchnevich up on that line, and then number 1 overall pick, who has not lived up to his billing so far with his massive 4 points on the year, but Alexis Lafreniere. So I think there's enough talent on that line, despite what they've done overall so far this season, that we can go there. And, if there's not going to be a big crowd on them, so much the better. They're getting some ownership, but they're not like crazy expensive like New York 1 was last year, New York 2 was last year. They're productive, and it's going to be, I think, the top line to go to on this team. I mean, you get the second unit probably with Strome, Kreider, and Blackwell, and then you get down Philip Hedel maybe coming back, but playing with like Kevin Rooney and Julien Gauthier. There's not much there outside of that top unit, specifically when Panarin's not in the lineup and they're kind of shook up like this. There's just not a lot to love. So if I was going to the Rangers, it would probably just be that top line.
Yeah, I think I'm going to eat some of this ownership on the top line. I don't know that I'll be above the field, but like the price is just too good. Mika maybe starting to wake up a little bit. It's the correlation is also tough. You only get Mika on the top power play on that top line. You get full power play correlation on the second line, which is a little bit unconventional. The Stahl-Hall duo has been pretty up tempo. And so maybe the Strome line sees a little bit more of them. I'll be dropping down to the second line for the Rangers as well. I just don't love playing the Rangers as chalk, I guess. Like I said, Buffalo does stink, but I think like a Buffalo power play stack makes quite a bit of sense here. Being on the road, you're getting reasonable prices for guys like Taylor Hall, especially 5,800 there. 56 for Reinhart, Olofsson at 6K, very good on the power play, and then Eichel at 7,200. Really low ownership for Buffalo 1. I think I'm going to be above the field on them. We'll see where it all shakes out, but you don't really need to play too many lineups to be above the field. And I actually like them in like the higher stakes single entry stuff. I think they're going to go completely overlooked there with a pretty small total outside of maybe Eichel. He'll probably pick up like 5 to 10% ownership. But I don't think the full line stack or the power play stack for the Sabres is going to be that owned. So I like Buffalo, I think, a little bit more than the Rangers. If you factor in the ownerships here, obviously big differences in projected ownership between the two sides. Anything on the blue line that you're targeting? Adam Fox, 6,300, Rasmus Dahlin, 5,300. Those are the power play 1 quarterbacks. Do you like either of those guys or anything else here?
They both see significant time. They're both good. I would say just looking at the ownership and going entirely by that, it looks like Dahlin is definitely going to be under-owned, particularly considering his correlation with what is a pretty good power play. You mentioned that that power play line, 3rd currently in the league, 31.15 power play conversion. So as bad as the team is, that power play is actually pretty decent, and it's the entire top line, that Olofsson, Eichel, Reinhart line, which is over 677, 28 together the last 2 years, 48.7 Corsi for, a little bit below average, but decent with goals and chances, 29 goals for, 28 against, 90 to 124 in high danger chances, 13 to 21 high danger goals for and the goals against. So not great on the defensive side of things, but definitely can generate some chances, some excitement. So I think Dahlin makes some sense as a low-owned piece of the puzzle there, or as a one-off for the defensive side of things. Fox, I love. I think he's a great player, very good defenseman, but he's going to be very popular on FanDuel. 20% ownership on FanDuel for the 4,700. A lot less owned on DK at 6,300 for 6.9%. So I think you get to him there, and then maybe you get a little sneaky if you are going to that Rangers too, and correlate him into the power play there.
Yeah, some options here for sure. I like both the power play 1 quarterbacks if I'm going to either of the top 2 lines for either side. Keandre Miller's price come up a little bit, 3,500, but probably a guy that's going to see 20 plus minutes if you want to go there. Montour, same thing on the other side. I think I prefer him over Yoki Haru. Cliffy's boy, Yoki Haru. We're not seeing Irwin, so Matt Irwin's season is canceled. So that's too bad. You can't get your 3 block bonus for min salary there. at least not tonight. Eric says, is it a company mandate to always write up Dougie Hamilton no matter who does the article? Yes, that is a company mandate. You get immediately fired if you do not mention Mr. Hamilton.
I think it's the first time I went to him this year, and I even introduced it by saying, some days you just need an easy one. I think that was the first sentence in that part of the write-up today. I needed an easy one today. It's a busy day, guys.
It's Dougie Hamilton versus Roman Yossi, the two best defensemen that have ever played NHL DFS, maybe outside of Brent Burns a couple years ago. But I mean, you just lock in both of those guys and you're good to go.
Yeah.
We'll get to that game in just a bit. We also got a $5 super chat from Dean. Nice. It says, at how many games do y'all feel the Josh stack becomes less viable? Is it all depending on if you like the spot enough, regardless of the games on the slate? You know what the Josh stack is, right, Terry?
Remind me.
Okay, it is a 5, usually 6-man stack with 5 to 6 forwards. You're basically just saying it's just an onslaught stack.
The onslaught. Yeah, that's right. We've talked about that.
Like, I think you could do that with Buffalo. It's a 2.5 implied total, but you basically just play like 4 or 5 forwards from the top line, mix in a defenseman, and you're just saying, all right, this team's going to score 5+ goals. Generally, I like that on like 4 or 5 game slates. I don't love it on 8 gamers like tonight, but like there's times where you could definitely do that. You had like Colorado last night. They were definitely Josh stackable. Their prices were a little bit lower on the road than what we're used to seeing, and they had a huge total. So it's more of a feel thing for me, and it's more of like a hand building thing if I'm doing like a single entry, but generally I like it on like 5 games or fewer.
Yeah, that makes sense. It just makes sense with this many games. There are more outcomes and a broader range of outcomes across more opportunities. So you're going to be less likely to get it all from one game like that. The other thing I would say is maybe I would just look for a spot. I don't know that it would be Buffalo tonight with a 2.55 implied total. I would maybe look for a spot where a team's got a heavier total, but maybe slipping under the radar tonight. Maybe if you were going to do it, maybe I'd look to like the Vancouver-Winnipeg game, but I don't know what the ownership on those lines looks like. So it would be a matter of looking for that high-scoring, potential team that has low ownership on the lines and affordable lines. So it's a tricky proposition. But yeah, on a slate this large, I think it loses some value.
Yep. Sam Gagne play of the day. Wow. Chat's on fire early today.
Right.
We're not even up to our usual concurrent viewers. So just wait once we get a few more people in here to troll and or tout Sam Gagne, but he's been on fire recently. So I don't know. Maybe not too bad of a play, I guess. Anyways, that game is going to have a lot to talk about with the CBJ chalk. But first, we've got another game that's going to feature one very chalky line. We've got the Flyers and the Penguins, 3 implied total for Philadelphia, 3 as well for the Penguins. Carter Hart, Tristan Jarry are your expected goalies here. Big news for the Penguins, no Sidney Crosby. That is going to change some things. It didn't change the total that much. I'll go check after the show and refresh the projections as I always do, and see if there's any big movement that needs to be reflected in our projections. Anyways, Jared McCann is going to slide up. Well, he was on line 2. He's going to play center. He's plays center and wing, depending on who they've got in their lineup. They are very shallow now. This Penguins team, they lose their one of the better 2-way centers in all of the NHL. Malkin, mostly just an offensive guy. He hasn't played a ton of offense this season, but he's going to play a lot of minutes. I mean, I have to think Pittsburgh 1 is probably going to play as many minutes as anyone tonight. Fully correlated on the power play, but very popular on DK. Good prices, so I get it. Where are you at on this Pittsburgh 1 line, Terry?
Yeah, I think it makes sense with Malkin bumping up there, and you get it's not like they've never played together. We've got 227-28 of ice time for that unit going back to the start of last year. 57.11% Corsi for percentage, 18-9 goals differential, generated 58 high danger chances, only yielded 35, scored 9 times on high dangers, and only gave up 7 goals on them. So it's a good line. It's effective. They generate chances. They score goals. I see no issues going to it other than I think a lot of people are going to be doing just that, to your point. So there's going to be some definite popularity there, and they're not cheap. You know, it's not the easiest unit in the world to roster. So you get Malkin sliding in for Crosby, but you don't get a discount for doing it. You know, 300 on or what is it, 500 on FanDuel, I guess, is a little bit significant. And, well, all right. Maybe I'm lying. I was looking at the FanDuel price. You do get 1,000 on DK. That's significant enough. You get a little bit of a savings on DK, but it's still a pricey enough line because Rust costs more over on DK.
Yeah. Rust is really expensive. So let's see if we've got this updated. I'm going to quick refresh my top stacks tool. Yeah, it got updated 9 minutes ago. So we should have. All right. So because before we had Crosby in there, obviously we don't now. They are right at where their ownership share is compared to their top 2 stack percentage. So like if you like them and you see the top stack tool today, I don't think you should be off of Pittsburgh 1. It looks like a pretty good spot for them. It's just a matter of which line are they going to go up against, because they generally go Crosby against opposing line number 1s. Here, Couturier, Van Riemsdyk, and Farabee, that line's been on fire recently. And Couturier, one of the better two-way centers in the NHL. So Pittsburgh or Philadelphia 1 is very expensive, but they're not going to be owned really at all. I think that's a little bit of a mistake. I'd like to get at least 5 to 10% of them in MME. It's just they're very price prohibitive, and so that's the only problem. But as is the case when we talk about like MLB, when these stacks are priced way up, they're usually going to grade out favorably in the top stack tool. And looking at Philadelphia 1, that is the case. Right now, we've got them at under 1% in the ownership share and a 6% chance of being a top 2 stack. So pretty good leverage you're getting there on a big slate. They are also fully correlated on the power play. Penguins without any depth. You could certainly go to this line 2 as well for the Flyers: Hayes, Giroux, and Patrick. And then I think I'm even going to have some shares of Philly 3, Lawton, Lindblom, and Voracek. Really cheap line 3. Again, Penguins just really hurting without Crosby. Yeah. That was their best defensive line as well. So I like Philadelphia here. I will be eating some of the chalk on Pittsburgh 1, but I'm going to try to get off of it a little bit. I'm just not like nearly as big of a believer in Pitt 1. With Malkin in there compared to Crosby, especially with how Malkin's played so far this season. Anything else in this game?
I like the Philly 3 call. They're not a ton of history together, but they kind of stood out to me. Just a couple names on that with Lindblom and Voracek on that line. And just 1703 sample size going back to the start of last year. So it's a nothing sample, but 60.61 Corsi 4, 1 goal to none given up, and 62 high danger chances. So they generate some chances in their limited time together. I think they could do something for us for pretty cheap and 0 ownership. I mean, nobody's going to be going there. I like that second unit as well. And then the top unit is just dominant in their relatively small sample as well, but just really, really strong in puck possession. And they've got the power play correlation, and also definitely like that call going to them at low ownership too.
Yeah, I like it. Pretty good game for DFS. I think that's all I've got to mention here. Penguins planning to go 11-7 with Ruedel, it looks like. So even more time for probably this top line. So hard to argue too much with Pitt 1, but it's just a matter of, are you a believer in the line, and are you a believer in them as the chalkiest line on the slate? So let's go to Detroit and Columbus. 2.3 implied total for the Wings, 3.1 for the Jackets. Jonathan Bernier and Jonas Korpisalo, your expected goalies. Columbus 1, not as popular as I thought. I think they came down a little bit in our most recent ownership projections update, but they're at about an 8% ownership share right now. And then you've got the 3 Wings line as their second line. So I think that's even going to make Columbus 1 even more popular because people hate 3 Wings on DraftKings. It's doable, but it's not really owned as a full stack much when this type of thing happens. You're going up against Detroit. Larkin probably not playing tonight. How do you feel about these Blue Jackets tonight?
Yeah, I think we can. I think we can roster some of them. The first line is interesting. They're a line that we know they've got the full power play correlation, some good names on that line. But when you look at them, 106-25 playing together, going back to the start of last year, just a 45% Corsi for percentage, 3 goals scored to 5 yielded, 19 to 14 high danger chances, and 3-3 on high danger goals, 4 high danger goals against. So they've been okay, and they've generated some chances. They've scored some goals, but the puck possession numbers a little bit concerning, and that kind of jibes with just Columbus as a team. 45.66 Corsi for percentage as a team. Just not really getting it done in terms of puck possession. Getting a little bit done. 91.5 save percentage as a team, so getting a little done on the defensive side to keep them in things. But yeah, I think it makes sense to go to that line anyway. I think there's enough there. They're a little bit owned on FanDuel, less so on DK, where I think it probably makes more sense to get to them. They're a little bit less expensive relatively on DK. So I think we can go that way. And then I think there's something to be said about the Wings line with nobody going to it and some talent on that line as well. Very limited sample, but they do well with puck possession, 56.06 Corsi for, 5 high danger chances generated, 6 yielded, and 1 goal allowed in high danger situations.
Yeah, I'm not getting to a ton of Columbus right now. I'm a little nervous because I thought they were going to be higher owned, and then Crosby being out changed some things, changed the price point on Pitt 1, and so maybe they might go a little bit more overlooked than I thought. If they're going to be under 10%, I'm probably just going to end up forcing some Columbus in. You mentioned the numbers at 5-on-5, not actually that good. Line is not a very good 5-on-5 player. Like, he's more a power play guy. And then you got Atkinson at 6,900. He's not a great value. But we're talking about an event-based sport, and the correlation certainly helps for
shots. 27, yeah, sure. 27 for Jenner and 24 for Foligno this year.
And they usually
and a lot of shots on goal in that line too, actually.
For sure, yeah. Jenner and Bjorkstrand both generate a lot of shots, and so they usually use Foligno against the opposing top competition. That would be the Mantha, Ryan, Filppula line. That line should play a lot tonight. Whether or not the Detroit coach Jeff Blashill, our favorite guy, decides to run them out for 20 minutes, is that's a whole nother story. I think Mantha only played 15 and 16 minutes in the last 2 games with Larkin, which is kind of insane. They've been rolling with the Nemesnikov and Gagne duo. So someone mentioned Gagne earlier. He's shooting a ton, and he's 3,800 in top power play. So there are probably worse plays out there. Not a real believer in his long-term at this point in his career, but knock yourselves out for 3,800. I'm not.
It's right in there. Nobody going to him. He fits in. The price is easy to get to. Only 13.44 average ice time for the season, but 6 points on the year, 4 goals, 2 assists. Like you said, he's playing on that power play unit. So he makes sense, I guess, as a click if you're doing it alongside Nemesnikov to correlate that line and that power play that they're on together. Looking at the ice time on that top line too, which you mentioned, that's got to be one of the lower top lines just in total average ice time on the year, right? You've got Filppula in the middle, averages under 15 minutes. And then each of the wings is under 18 minutes, 16:08 for Ryan and 17:40 for Mantha. That's low for a top unit.
We've got a bunch of Gagne believers. I don't know. Maybe I need to take a second look at this. I'm looking at my exposure on Detroit, and I don't have anything above 5%. So for me tonight, I think they're just going to be a filler in MME. I don't think I'll be targeting them in like the higher stakes stuff. But look, they're going to be low owned. It's not like Columbus has been overly impressive. So I get it if you're looking to just attack Columbus with cheap guys, Nemesnikov and Gagne, but I want to talk myself into playing some Mantha, but it's just like the minutes don't matter that much because goals are random, but how this guy should be playing 20 minutes a night when Larkin is not in. And even when Larkin is in and playing with them, they don't often get to 20. So just kind of a frustrating team. Columbus is also a frustrating team. I tend to avoid them when they're chalk, but like I said, I think there are some good things about them tonight. You've got at least two defensemen that are in play, Jones and Werenski. On the Red Wing side, if you wanted to go to Kristen Juice at 2,700, power play 1 guy, if you're playing a Detroit stack, I have no issue with that. But I don't have a whole lot on this game in general. How about you?
Yeah, no, I'm pretty much with you on that. Just to put a bow on the Gagne line discussion in Alex's top stacks here. 2.3% probability of being one of the top two lines of the night. 2.9% owned, so they're negatively leveraged despite the small ownership, and they don't have a great shot of being the optimal line, but they're cheap.
All right, let's go to Ottawa and Montreal. 2.5 implied total for the Sens, 3.9 for the Canadians. Matt Murray / Joey Decord in net. Senators played last night. It was Murray. And then Carey Price going for the Canadians. Some would say Canadians are starting their backup goalie or their worst goalie. Price has been pretty brutal. Anyways, story for another day. We've got 4 more games after this, so we're not
88% save percent, 88.8 save percentage this year. Ouch.
Yeah, and I don't watch a lot of Canadians games, but it feels like the beats will be tweeting out. Like I follow the beat writers like Boss's lists, and they'll be like, "Wow, what a save! Just phenomenal saves by Price," and then he lets in an easy one, like 2 or 3 every game, just like goals that should not be allowed. So I don't know. I always say certainly don't know a ton about actual hockey, and I'm just playing DFS and just enjoying watching. But I don't know if it's a positioning thing or whatever. But maybe he's just got the yips, or maybe he just stinks now. But you
get some goalies who are just like that though, where they make the phenomenal save and then they yield the easy one. Lundqvist was like that for the Rangers in later years of his career, where he could still make the phenomenal saves, but he was yielding just the soft angle stuff and the easy stuff in a little too often. So maybe it's just he's suffering from that as he gets older. Yeah,
and I mean Jake Allen's had his issues with being a very volatile player, backup for Montreal. So maybe some tough days ahead for the Canadians if they can't get their goaltending turned around, specifically Price, who they're paying like $50 million a year, it seems like. That might be a little bit too high, but Montreal is going to be popular. Biggest total on the slate. Ottawa, done a good job of playing at least good offensive hockey. Defensively, they're not very sound. This top line is about average, maybe a little bit above average. The Brown-Tkachuk duo. If Tierney's going to be there, I think that's fine. The problem is just the power play correlation for that line is really bad. You get the most power play correlation on the third Sens line. I think you can go back to them, but I don't know, take this game wherever you want. I think there's legitimately 6 lines that are reasonable MME plays, and probably about half of that are in play for smaller field stuff.
Yeah, so I wrote up Gallagher off the top line for the Habs as a wing play today, and I think that makes sense. I think it makes a ton of sense to go to that line in general. They're going to be owned, they're going to be popular, but they're a productive unit, and they've got a ton of history. 718 minutes since the start of last year, 61.88 Corsi for percentage, just dominant puck possession, 42 goals, 429 against. The thing I love the most, I think, 204 to 110 in high danger chances. Versus high danger chances, yielded 27-18 in high danger goals for versus against. So just an excellent line, a lot of puck possession time, generating a ton of chances and finishing. So really like that line. Definitely think you can go there. I think 2 is definitely in play as well. If you look at just Suzuki and Druin playing together, 255-58 with a 55-3-2 Corsi for percentage, 14 to 12 goals differential for the 2 of them as a 2-man. So I think there's a lot to like about that line as well.
Yeah, I think so. The matchups here are probably going to go Danault, Tatar, Gallagher up against the Tkachuk line. That's not a phenomenal matchup. The White, Paul Dadnoff line, they haven't been so bad defensively, but definitely worse than the Tkachuk-Brown duo so far this season. So I think with the ownerships being the way they are, and in general, I love the top line, but if the top line is going to be this much more popular than the second line, even like 1.5x the ownership of the second line, I think I'm going to end up over on the second line and probably a little under on the top line. It's a great spot for Montreal, especially on the back-to-back. Again, Ottawa, it's certainly not stout defensively, but they do have one line that is pretty good defensively, and that's their top line, and that's going to be the line that Danault, Tatar, and Gallagher go up against. So I love the call on Gallagher. He's right now, I think, the highest projected after Pitt 1, he's the highest owned forward in our ownership projections. Actually, that was FanDuel. He is the highest owned guy on DraftKings in our most recent update. So great play. I mean, if you're playing cash, at 5,900, you don't have to worry about the minutes as much with Gallagher. When he's priced up near 7K and he's playing like 15, 16 minutes a night, that's when you got to worry about the minutes. But it's fair to say that he should have a lot of shot opportunities tonight. I just love wherever Toffoli's gone. He's just playing unreal so far this season. I think he's got a couple hat tricks so far and a couple 4-point games. Like, he's just a really dynamic player. Play with a guy like Suzuki, who is more of a passer. He's not a great like one-off guy, but you get full power play correlation in the second line. And again, a little bit of an easier matchup from what I'm seeing for Montreal too. And then, do you like anything on the Ottawa side? Ottawa 3?
Yeah, I think that's the spot, right? It's and it's all about that Stützle and Batherson combo. Goals in 6 straight, looking for an Ottawa record number 7. Him and Stützle playing together, 121.07 since the start of last year. 6 goals scored, 7 against. 25-23 generating high danger chances, converted on 4 of them and gave up 2. So they play well as a unit, just the 2 of them playing together. So I think maybe it makes some sense to go back there. It's not a spot anybody's going to be, and they're super cheap, so you can slot them in next to basically anything you want to do and get some, hope for some production out of them. Certainly going to see plenty of ice time out of the top line, the Tkachuk line, but I don't know that we necessarily want to go to them for DFS purposes. Maybe if you go to Tkachuk as a one-off, that's fine. They're a decent line, good defensively, good puck possession line, 51% Corsi for percentage. 8-5 in goal differential, 28-25 in high danger chances. What I do like there is they've finished on 6 of their 28 high danger chances, only allowed 1 goal on 25 high danger chances against. So pretty good in that situation.
Yeah, and I think you can go to Ottawa too as well. So just been very good at 5-on-5. I'm not sure their matchup's going to be great. Just Montreal is just really, really strong at even strength. So in general, I don't love targeting against them. But when it's a cheap line like this, and maybe going up against a chalky, very shaky goalie currently in Carey Price, I'll be looking to play some of these Ottawa depth lines. I'd love to play some Tkachuk, but he's probably more reserved for one-offs based on his line mates. So defenseman, Shea Weber, 5,700. He's expected to be popular for good reason. I mean, he can score goals as a defenseman. He's got a massive shot, but he's going to be popular. And then Petrie, 6,400. His price just does not come down, and he's not on the top power play currently. He goes a little bit better with Montreal 1, so you get the cheaper Montreal line, and you can get the more expensive defenseman if you look at it like that for a 4-man. But these guys are going to be more correlation plays for me, these defensemen in this game. Anything else you got here?
Just on the blue line, if you want to go to Chabot on the other side of this one, I think he could make some sense from the top of that. Not a ton of ownership, get some power play correlation in there.
All right, let's go. Actually, we're at the halfway point. Free premium content for today. NHL Top Stacks. I've been giving you guys the numbers because the Top Stack tool is free for today. Nightbot's got you hooked up a couple messages ago if you look at it. Or if you go to Awesemo.com NHL, or just scroll across the NHL tab on Awesemo.com, you can find our Top Stack tool. Great look at the slate in its entirety. In kind of one page, you get the top 2 stack percentage, you get the ownership share, and then everybody's favorite column, the leverage column, got that for DraftKings and FanDuel. So that's going to be unlocked for today only. We usually do it on smaller slates. You guys are getting spoiled. It is an 8-gamer today, and this is a very important tool. You can see where each stack stacks up, I guess. Didn't even try to do that. Sometimes the words just come to me, Terry. And if you want to join the entire site, Awesemo Plus Weekly Pass for Platinum is $29.95. This includes full access to everything. Premium tools for NBA. We've got MLB coming up. Terry, I'm sure you're very excited about MLB.
Can't wait.
I am as well. NHL, you'd get that. And then if you're only looking to play NHL DFS, we've got an Awesemo Plus weekly package for just $11.95. Or you could get the cheapest one on the site. That is $3.95. That includes the rankings. But most importantly, the premium Slack. Great resource for your latest breaking news, and as well as our Awesemo NHL Twitter account. So a lot of places to get good free stuff. But the best stuff is behind the paywall, as you guys know. Let's go to the Islanders and the Devils. 3.0 implied total for the Isles, 2.5 for the Devils. It's going to be Varlamov and Dell going for the Devils, making, I think, his second start. I think he had one more start in there. Anyways.
Second start.
Okay.
Yep.
What do you like in this game? I'm not seeing much ownership on both sides. I mean, it is a low total game. Devils not terrible defensively. Islanders very good defensively. Do anything stick out to you here?
No, it's a relatively low total game. It's got a 5.5 on it, but you're getting the the Isles with a 303 implied total, Devils with a 255. So just not expecting a ton of offense in this one. And really, I don't love the Devils lines just in general. There's not a great amount of production. They're decent defensively, decent with puck possession, but just the scoring isn't, incredibly dynamic. So I think that top line from the Islanders and maybe a little bit of the second line, the way they're listed with Lee Barzal Eberle and then Beauvillier Nelson Bailey, I think getting to those guys, there's not a ton of ownership, nobody over 10% on either one of those lines. And the prices aren't crazy. I think that might be the spot. If I'm going anywhere in this game, that would probably be the spot. And then maybe mix in a little bit of Devils one, that Jack Hughes line, but I'm not a big believer in them. So I think on if you want to look at Islanders 658 going back to the start of last year together, 54.5 Corsi 4, 31-31 in goals for, goals against, but 188 to 128 in high danger chances, with a 20-14 margin on goals scored in that situation. So very good line there. And then you get similar production out of the second line in less time together. So really like the top two lines over there. And you can throw Pulak in for some correlation on the top power play.
Yeah. So I'll get the Devils out of the way. I agree with you. Hughes, Palmieri, and Andreas Janssen, I think, is a fine stack. Mostly Hughes and Palmieri as kind of a two-man. They're a little bit expensive for the spot, I think, and their expected matchup. I mean, I'm assuming they're going to see some of each of the top Islanders lines, and then the Zajac line, probably see some of the Islanders one, but, there's no matchup that I'm really worried about for Isles one here. I just think they're an awesome line. They always have the full power play correlation. And they're at a good price, and their total is not massive, and that's why you're seeing their ownership below 10%. So Top Stack Tool is in agreement with their ownership share. You never have to talk me into Isles 1. I ran a crunch in the background while this show started, and I'm at about 16% Isles 1. So that's about 2 times their ownership. I feel very good about that when I can get them at low ownership. I'm not leaving out Isles 2 either. I got to 8% of Isles 2. So lots of ownership for me on one of the lowest total games of the slate. I feel like it's always the Islanders for me. They're pretty concentrated between their top two lines, although Peugeot and Wahlstrom have been providing some offense recently. So, I don't know. I just like the Islanders. It feels like their total is always much lower than it should be for how much that I play them, if that makes sense. But I guess I'm just a believer in this team, certainly a believer in the top line. And Beauvillier, 3,400 is a good price there on line 2. So greatly prefer the Isles side. Again, if you're going to the Devils, I think the top line is okay. But like if this was a line that I didn't get to very much of, I don't think I would be redoing my lineups near lock to try to jam in some Devils. So
yeah, it's a line with there's just looking at the top stacks tool to simplify things. There's like 20-ish teams ahead, 20-ish lines ahead of them, including several line 2s from a bunch of teams. They're not incredibly cheap. They've got a 4.4% chance of being one of your top 2 stacks on the night. There's better spots. They're fine, you can get to them, but it's not a spot where I'd be going nuts trying to get to them or going nuts trying to get like way over the field on them either.
Yep. All right. Any defensemen? I'm scrolling through here and I'm not seeing any good options for cheap defensemen. Maybe I'm missing on some guys there. I'm just like looking over this too quick, but if you guys got favorite cheap defensemen in Slack that we're forgetting about or in the YouTube chat, feel free to drop them in. But yeah, I don't see a lot of cheap guys that I'm looking at. Maybe Mayfield, if that counts, 3,500 just blocks some shots, but I think it's more likely the Isles are going to carry possession in this game. Andy Green, I don't know. I mean, he's min salary. He blocks some shots. Like, it's ugly down here. Are you finding any cheap defensemen that you enjoy rostering this evening, Terry?
I'm kind of with you. I mentioned Pulak, but he's not exactly cheap. Decent run on the power play. I guess if you want to consider Nick Leddy cheap, he's got 14 points on the season, 8 of them on the power play, only 19 block shots.
He has 14 points. I would not have guessed that.
Yeah, goal and 13 assists.
Wow. Okay.
Unless this is pulling the wrong info.
No, I mean, I know he's had
Let me double check. I'm saying it on the show.
No, you're good. He's just like kind of been a guy that we've always talked about as someone we don't want to play because he used to power play quarterback the top unit, and he'd be like 4K and he'd be like 10% owned, but he doesn't really offer much outside of assists. So he was a guy that never really made sense to play without an Islanders line. So he's had a couple of good seasons in there, I think, points wise, but just doesn't really shoot that much. I wish he would shoot more. I'd love to play him at 3,800, but never really attempt shots. So
32 shots on goal in their 21 games. I was right about the points though. 14 points, goal and 13 assists. Still a -3 on the season though.
All right, let's go to the Canucks and the Jets. 2.8 implied total for the Canucks, 3.3 for the Jets. Holtby, Brossoit, a couple of backups going at it tonight. These two teams played last night. Vancouver won convincingly. It was relatively low scoring, especially on the Jets side, got shut out. They swapped their lines mid-game. That's kind of a problem because this game does not lock at 7 Eastern. It locks at 8 Eastern. So you'll have about a half hour after lock, and then you'll know what lines the Jets are going to run out. It could be anything. Ugly loss last night. The Vancouver side, from the game reports, I didn't watch this game. I don't watch every game, not even close. I wish I could, but I can't. And so nice. Vancouver wasn't like dominant at 5-on-5 like I thought they might be. So maybe Winnipeg figured something out with their lines. If they go Scheifele, Stastny, Wheeler, that's what I've got right now. That line was very good at 5-on-5, but they were also in a game environment where Vancouver didn't really need to score. They didn't really need to attempt a lot of long shots or just try to get shots on goal. So I think I prefer the Vancouver side once again here. What do you like in this game, if anything?
Yeah, I was eyeballing. I mean, there's the obvious guys from the Winnipeg side, just, name recognition wise, and they're all getting ownership. They're all pretty expensive. Just eyeballing the slate in this matchup, I was kind of zeroing in on that JT Miller line, the Miller, Pettersson, Brock Bosner line. I think they're pretty good. 617 minutes together since the start of last year, 56.56% Corsi for, 45-28 goal differential, 115 high danger chances generated and only 89 yielded, and 25 high danger goals scored to 19 given up. So pretty good line controlling the puck, getting shots off, getting shots on goal, and just kind of generating the chances and putting the puck in the net. So I like getting to that line, and they're all significantly under 10%, getting up toward 10% on FanDuel, but well under on DK, and not prohibitively priced. So I think that's a decent line to maybe not sneaky, but approaching sneaky.
Are you talking about the Pettersson line? Sorry.
Yeah.
So this line started off, so this was a line the last couple of years that's been really awesome at 5-on-5, or at least very above average. Maybe not like Boston 1 levels or Colorado 1, but kind of in that next tier, at least for me. And so they started off the season really poorly. Maybe it was a matchup thing. They had a bunch of games against Montreal, and Montreal's a good 5-on-5 team, so maybe that was part of it. They're also missing a bunch of defensemen, so it's hard to get the puck when your defenseman can't stop anybody. Anyways, the last 10-15 games, they've been incredible at 5-on-5, like closer to 4 expected goals, 4 per 60, just outrageous numbers for the Pettersson line. It's kind of like the Isles one thing. I don't think the spot is amazing, especially if Winnipeg switches up their lines. But just the ownership is too good. They're too good at 5-on-5. They've got the full correlation. Someone said correlation is the word of the day. It's always the word of the day when I'm on the show. Correlation matters. So, full correlation on Vancouver 2. Actually, are we calling them Vancouver 2 or Vancouver 1? Because I'm seeing them as 2 on my screen. It doesn't matter. They are the best line on the Canucks. So that's all.
Yeah, I've got them slotted into the second spot on my little dashboard here because that's how it was on the website. But they lead in ice time, so if you want to go by that, they are the nominal top line. But either way, I think that's the line that we go to here. And then there's something to be said, I guess, for the Horvat, Virtanen, and Pearson line as well. They're 146 together. Puck possession numbers not great, but they do generate some chances, 22 to 22 in high danger chances. So without a ton of ice time together, they have generated a decent amount of high danger chances, converted on 4 of them. So I don't hate that line. They're inexpensive and they're low owned.
Yeah. You got the 3 wings on Winnipeg too. If they go Connor, Dubois, and Ehlers, I actually think that can be a pretty good line, but and I think it'll be a line that people don't get to very often. I think people will get to the Scheifele, Wheeler, Stastny trio. Stastny and Scheifele on the same line, 2 guys that don't shoot. That kind of rubs me the wrong way. So I'm probably just going to end up forcing in some Winnipeg too, and hope they get the easier of the matchups. Hopefully they get to avoid a lot of time against the Pettersson line. And then I think you can go to Vancouver 3 as well. I know Cliffy's watching the show. I know he'll get a little excited with the Vancouver 3 mention. Gaudette's been shooting a ton, and he's 2,500. You've also got Hoglander scored last night. This line is projected for almost no ownership and gets to go up against the Winnipeg depth. And pretty much all their lines have issues at 5-on-5. So like Vancouver, the Pettersson line, like the Sutter, Gaudette, Hoglander trio as well. And I think I'll even have some Vancouver onslaughts. I'm just so anti-Winnipeg these days. It seems like anytime they're on the slate and they've got this total, I just want to try to get away from them. So I'm a Winnipeg hater this year, Terry.
Really? Yeah, I didn't know that. Have you ever been there? I mean, I hear it's very nice up there. No. I know we can't go these days, but that's supposed to be a really nice place. Vancouver, too.
Vancouver? Yeah, I don't know. I haven't been to either. I've only been to Toronto in Canada, and I had a great time. So certainly not hating on my friends up north. But these Jets, they, like I said, they rub me the wrong way. Maybe some of this 3-wing Dubois, Connor, Ehlers line for me tonight. But I'm more focused on the Vancouver side. Always makes me nervous when I'm heavy on underdog. Like, I'm not smarter than Vegas, but sometimes I try to be with the lineups I play, it appears. But, sometimes it works out. Most of the time it doesn't.
Yeah, I think we all try to be. And as my dad always says, they didn't build those casinos by losing. So
that's true. That's a good phrase. Let's go to Carolina, Nashville, 2.9 implied total for the Canes, 2.7 for the Preds, Reimer, and Saros/Rene. We never know with the Preds. Carolina swapped their lines at lock last night. They went with Aho, Ryder McGinn, Trocheck with Svechnikov and Jesper Fast, Stahl with Fogle and Marty Netchus. Who knows what the Preds are going to do? They have been swapping their lines all over the place. In practice this morning, they went with Granlund, Forsberg, and Tolvanen. They're keeping together the Duchesne, Yarncroc, Grimaldi trio. I don't know. Johansson with Arvidsson and Nick Cousins doesn't do a ton for me against a good possession team in Carolina. Does anything stick out to you here?
It would probably be on the Carolina side of things. I think if we're looking at anything. Just looking, with some of those changes, it's a little bit tough to nail down the exact line history, but Aho and Niederreiter significant experience together, and then Aho and McGinn significant experience together. So I would expect that line plays pretty well as a unit, all 3 of them. Just Aho and Niederreiter together, 405 minutes going back to the start of last year, 60.13% Corsi for percentage, 16 to 14 goals advantage. Just a very, very strong line there. So I think you can go to that one. I think the Svechnikov and Trocheck line, if you wanted to work Jesper Fast into that, then fine to stack the whole thing. I don't think that he's necessarily a big component of it, though. I think you could probably get away with the 2-man there. And then if you wanted to play the power play game and jump around between the lines, or maybe stack the 2 of them with Dougie Hamilton and go with 3 components of the power play, I think maybe some of that makes some sense as well. Yeah,
just 2 teams that are difficult for me to figure out. I will say the Granlund, Forsberg, Tolvanen line looks pretty good to me. And then the Trocheck Svechnikov duo, I also like. I would prefer if Aho and Svechnikov were together, but we're just not going to know prior to lock, which is the problem because they're on a back-to-back. I don't believe they skated this morning. So I'd like to go with like some 2-3 mans with like Trocheck Svechnikov or Aho Svechnikov who knew they were going to be together, and throw in Dougie Hamilton because I don't think the Preds are very impressive. And then on the back to the Preds side, I mentioned the Granlund line. Also mix in the Duchesne, Yarncroc, Grimaldi trio. Just pretty good 5-on-5 numbers. And cheap, and really no one's going to get to the full stack outside of maybe me and Testosterone, who just hammers 3-3 stacks like it's nobody's business. Any last talking points in this game? What about the defenseman, Yossi, Hamilton? Do you have a preference there?
I wrote up Dougie Hamilton, and apparently we got flack for it in chat, so I'll go to the other side of the obvious question. We'll say Roman Yossi on the show. You can't go wrong with either defenseman, I don't think. You're getting them with the power play or as standalone guys. They're both spectacular. They're both fine. They're both going to be very popular, and they're expensive. So good luck on that. If you went with that with the Duchesne Jarncroc line, would you try and correlate some power play with Ellis on the second power play unit by building him in there? He's low owned, not expensive.
Yeah, I thought someone said something about Ellis. Maybe they were talking about someone else in chat that maybe he was out, but I could just be completely misremembering that. So if you're listening to this later, check on that. I could be completely off base, but I thought someone said that maybe he's hurt or something like that. But if he's in power play 2, I think I would go with Ellis with the Yarncroc, Duchesne, Grimaldi trio, Yossi, Dougie, 2 of my favorite defensemen. I prefer Yossi this evening, but Dougie is right up there as one of the top spend-ups because I think I'm going to be spending up quite a bit tonight because there are just not very many good defensemen. If you wanted to go to Ekholm at 3,900, I think he's a perfectly fine option. But it's ugly, man. It's ugly once you get past the top couple guys.
For sure. I'm not seeing anything on Ellis being out just yet. But definitely, like Jake said, make sure you check. And that goes for everything that we talk about on these shows, you guys, and everything that's in our content all the time. Always check.
Josh is saying, Josh says Ellis is out.
Okay.
Fabro possibly power play 2. Could be at home power play 2. I'll just confirm.
Default to him. He would know better.
Okay. Well, whatever. I'll get this figured out in the projections. Another reason to sign up. You'll get the correct players in the projections. And when I come out here and just say random stuff that ends up not being true, just default to the projections and default to the premium Slack chat. We got a great community in there. All right, we got a couple minutes before this last game, and then we'll hop out of here. Like and subscribe as you head out and listen to us on podcasts. Every show we do will be uploaded onto podcast, besides the live before locks because, for obvious reasons. Lightning, Stars, 3 implied total for the Lightning, 2.4 for the Stars, Vasilevsky and Khudobin. You've got some cheap Stars at home, not getting much ownership. You've got some cheap Lightning as well, not getting much ownership. I like this game better than the Nashville game overall, I think, and specifically the Tampa Bay side. What say you, Terry?
Yeah, it's interesting. Not a ton of ownership on Tampa at all, and the prices with the jumbled up lines are a little bit, affordable to get to those full stacks of those lines. So it's definitely an interesting spot. When I was just looking at it without the ownership numbers earlier, I was just kind of assuming they were going to be heavier owned. So I just kind of filed them away as, we'll talk about them, but they're not going to be a critical piece just because they'd be popular. But with this kind of ownership, I think it makes a ton of sense to start looking their way. I just wanted to jump over to the big board here. So we get that Tampa 2 line is maybe I'll call it 12th, 15th overall on the board. 5-ish% probability of being the top stack, but you're only paying 15.6 for him with Stamkos, Cirelli, and Killorn on that line. Getting to him a better probability of being one of the top 2 than the public is getting to them in terms of ownership. So I think that's an interesting spot. And then the top line, the nominal top line with Point, Palat, and Tyler Johnson on it is only a couple spots behind them, a little bit cheaper, and similarly ranked in terms of probability of being top 2 and not being owned. So really like the spot there.
Yeah, I don't mind the Hintz, Ben, Pavelski trio for the Stars, but I really prefer the Lightning here. So Lightning power play, Dallas had some issues on the penalty kill. They've had some issues taking about 3.5 times shorthanded so far this season. They've only played 17 games, so the aggregate numbers look low, but on a per game basis, they're like below average in terms of being shorthanded. So I'm all over Tampa. I'm usually a Tampa hater too, but you can't be a Winnipeg and Tampa hater tonight. I will be on the Tampa train in the, I guess, late night hammer, 7:30 start my time, 8:30 Eastern time, your time, Terry. I love Tampa. So anything else on this game or this slate before we close it out?
Just to back up our Tampa takes, you've got those top 3 lines all well over 50% Corsi for percentage, almost approaching all over 55%. And this Dallas team as a team, 49.36. So the puck possession game is just going to be favoring Tampa tremendously. And then you get decent team save percentage for Dallas, but I think they're just going to get peppered with shots. I like everything about the Tampa side of this one. Would you be going to Tampa 3 in this one? I know that's one of your pocket lines.
Yep, I like Tampa 3. Just as a general rule, Coleman and Yanni Gord. With Barclay Goodrow, their prices come up a little bit, but not enough for me to avoid them. So good call there as well. And that's going to do it for us this evening. Thank you all for watching. It will be Josh and Cliffy, the duo, running it back tomorrow. And good luck until then. Let's win some money tonight.